Hello, Monrovia. How you doing today in this sweltering heat? At least it is today. You know, the month of June has been a fascinating month so far in history-making ways. History-making ways? Well, we did have Daddy's Day. Well, some people call it Father's Day, but in my house, we know anybody could be a father, but it takes a great person to be a dad. Then we had the celebration of Juneteenth. Who's responsible for Juneteenth celebration? This lady here, she gets very little recognition. Opal Lee, O-P-A-L. Last name, Lee, L-E-E. For years, she petitioned and walked, I think, 2 or 3 miles every year to focus on the Juneteenth celebration. You don't know what Juneteenth celebration is all about? You better catch up with it because it's a federal holiday. You might even get paid for celebrating. Isn't that something different? But then you might say, okay, locally, what was the history breaking? Well, in the city of Monrovia, California, they had election for mayor and city council. That took place on, I want to say June 7th. I might be correct. Now, prior to the election, my guest host co-hosted a show as we interviewed the candidates and we shared them with you, the voters, to get something up close and personal. So I'm honored to have here in the studio to break down this show here, a recap on election June 7, 2022. Chris Lose, what's up, fella?
Happy to be here,
Bump
Mr.
me
Walker.
now.
Appreciate it. It was an honor to sit with you. I'm glad we're having this recap conversation.
Recap. What do you think about the election? What do you think about the vote totals? Did your candidate win? Did the one that you endorsed, did they win? Oh, we're going to chop all that up and start talking about it.
Before we dive in, Mr. Walker, you've gotten to do this for quite some time.
Oh, yeah.
You've seen quite a few different elections. You've seen people run for mayor, people run for city council, and continued on. Some ran again, some left the town.
Yes.
What was it about this election that made it different, or was it different?
This election was different from a historical point because you had an African American female, Dr. Kelly.
Yeah.
There had not been an African American female ran for city council, but never elected in the history of Monrovia. And this is 2022. Then you had the incumbent city council person running again, Larry Spicer. So it became quite interesting. Could 2 black folks make it in on the city council in the city of Monrovia? And if you tuned in later and you wonder why I got this fedora on, it's because it's part of the celebration of Juneteenth that took place. And I'm honored to be here in the studio with my co-host here, Chris Lowe, as we talk a recap. Who did you vote for and did they win?
I didn't even want to, I feel like my hat is just not living up to what I'm seeing across from me right here. I know it's all the way from Jamaica. We were talking off the air earlier.
Yes. Hat Man in Jamaica.
Hat Man in Jamaica is represented well here in Monrovia today.
Yes. So covering the various elections is, like I say, from a historical point,
Yeah.
was quite amazing.
Yeah.
All right. And then you had the Mr. Grolnick run for office again.
Correct.
Perennial loser. I would debate that in a way. Numbers might say yeah, but he's a man with a varied opinion, and you either take it or you leave it. But there's one thing about him: he throws his hat in the ring and say, "Here I am."
Right.
Even though the odds may be against him, but hell, this time around, he got 1,000 votes.
Yep. And you say
Pretty
perennial.
close.
You said perennial from he's ran consistently.
Yes,
Okay.
yes, yes. Not a first-time shot caller. He's jumped in the ring quite a bit. So I got to tell you something. If he almost pulled in 1,000 votes, somebody was listening to him.
Correct. I would have liked to see a little bit more of a race in the mayoral
Yeah.
run. Congratulations, definitely to Becky Shevlin
Yes.
for winning. That was one thing I would have liked to have seen was another hand, because we had 6 people running for city council for 2 seats. Is that in the past kind of been the case where we have a lot of people running for council or not?
I think it fluctuates. Depends on what the subject matter may be. If they feel uncertain about the mayor, then it might be, oh, let's get more people running. But it's crazy politics no matter what city you're in.
Yeah.
I'm out of the city of Chicago where everybody votes more than once. So, coming to Monrovia and being a witness to history, I was so intrigued of Becky Shevlin running for mayor from a safe seat, okay, saying that she was elected for city council, she can run for mayor, and if she loses, she still has her city council seat. That's why they call it a safe seat.
Got it.
But it also has political intrigue by it. Why do I say political intrigue? Because can I say founding fathers, or those political whizzes in the back room, said we need to safeguard to make sure we can get in who we want to get in. But I might be moving too far ahead. Well,
That safe seat is intriguing. I'd heard the term before and didn't know what that meant until now, because with Becky Shevlin becoming our mayor, this
Yeah.
opens up a 3rd seat, correct, on city council.
yes. And it's never talked about during election time.
Right.
They never say, oh, there will be another council seat.
Correct. Now, me paying the most attention to this year's local vote, local politics, Measure RM, I've never paid more attention
Yeah.
than this year. But with that as well, in the seat, shouldn't it kind of go to the 3rd place runner in the city council? So there's 2 that won. 3rd one is now opened up with Becky Shevlin moving to the mayor seat. So does that 3rd seat that is now open go to the candidate who came in 3rd or had the 3rd most votes here in our town?
3rd is still a loser. That's how they look at it. It was the city council was for 2 seats. Oh, the safe seat is open. Okay. 3rd person, I think you would have to go into a little bit of history. A little bit of history in this book here, written by Richard Singer, Dick Singer, and comprehensive history of Monrovia. And if you go to page 73, I'm not going to read it to you. I want to invoke your curiosity to find out about Pam Fitzpatrick, dial maker, who has her name embellished on one of the seats in the city council area. She came in 3rd place. at one time, and they did not give her she didn't get the seat. A gentleman by the name of Dan Kirby got it. No one knew him from Adam.
He wasn't running.
No, he was not running. He was selected after the election, and that's what they do. But it was Dick Mountjoy, former mayor, former high-ranking politician, and I'll just say California politics. He came down to the city council, and he said, you need to elect Dan Kirby for the city council. I'm sitting at home and I could not believe it. And Pam Fitzpatrick was denied her opportunity to serve on the city council. But then they have a seat for Diaz with her name on it. All politics. This is all decided by those that get the vote.
Got it. So the third place seat is appointed by the new council
Yes.
and the mayor,
Yes.
and can be anybody.
It could be anybody.
So technically, and I know
It could be you.
wow, that's terrifying. But so because I'm looking at the numbers, and Larry Spicer, at this moment, again, these numbers could change all the way up until July 1st, is I believe when we get the final
Yes.
count. So currently, we're looking at 3290 for Larry Spicer, Dr. Tamala Kelly at 3150, Sasha Zaroyan at 2524, 2,500, Sergio Jimenez right behind there at 2,113, Edward Belden at 1424, and Gina Mills at 694.
All right, let's talk about some of the surprises. What surprised you? Anything there?
I'm gonna say no, because just from being in town, shout out to Larry Spicer's campaign manager, Keisha Bowen, for giving him the most astounding presence anyone running for anything could ask for on Huntington Drive and throughout the city.
Oh yeah, sign man. I might have been a hat man,
Yeah.
but he had more signs than anybody.
Yeah.
Right?
So that came, and again, he's been here as well,
Yes.
so that he's not new to the city. I think people, by him coming in, number one, shows that people do
Trust.
appreciate him and they trust him.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
I'll say Dr. Kelly is
A stunner.
definitely a surprise, but I'm excited for as
Yeah.
well.
Yeah.
At the number 2, because, and again, shout to her campaign manager, Melissa Taylor,
Oh yes.
who ran for mayor. So it was, that was pretty amazing to see her get number 2 with 3,150
Now, what about
votes.
somebody might question your statement on that and say about, but she beat out Sergio, and wasn't Sergio backed by most of the incumbents?
Yes.
So that was pretty amazing for him to tumble to the number what?
He's at number 4 currently.
4 spot.
Yes. I think too that goes to show who actually comes to the polls. Right? If we're looking at it, I think we've got, I know the population is 30,000 plus. If we chop that in half and say 15,000, right, that could vote, I'll even go lower and say 10,000 if you rule off the kids and anybody
yeah.
else, right? Say 10,000. We only have a turnout of slightly over 3,000
Yeah.
that show up to the polls. So the incumbents and who you have backing you, I think it slightly means something, but do they really show up? And maybe that's part of it. I think that's the closest spot is the number 3 and number 4. Sasha at the number 3 spot doesn't surprise me from what I've seen in town as well with signs.
Oh yeah, and media.
And media,
It
correct.
Was, it was quite amazing.
Yep.
But let's get some respect back up to the city clerk.
Yeah.
She ran unopposed. Shout out to you, Alice. Congratulations to you.
Yes.
6,000 people and more was happy to have you back in again. So keep dotting the I's and crossing the T's, and they'll be happy. And the next one we have to talk about is the city treasurer and town historian that passed away prior to the election, and that was Steve Baker, which he would have just been delightful to be a part of this race and campaign that took place with two historical African Americans making history
Yes.
on to the city council, Larry Spicer and Dr. Kelly. Quite amazing in the town of Monrovia for a black woman to make it to city council first time around. So all eyes will be on you, Dr. Kelly. Trust me.
Yeah. Does this, so, and as we look at it, does this mean that the current council, including Dr. Kelly, because I say that because Larry Spicer was already a council member also, they decide that who that gets that open seat?
Number 3 spot. Yes.
Got
And
it.
you got to remember that dropping back on Sasha was during the debates. He wasn't too friendly towards Larry Spicer. He sort of dissed him a little bit.
There was the old folk shots for sure.
Yes, he been on it too long, you know. But now it's sort of like you need that. You know, they say, don't bite the hand that feeds you. Okay.
Or how do we play together, right? If you're gonna get there and
Right.
sit with them.
Yes, yes. Now that's going to be interesting with the dynamics. But the dynamics is we got Becky's, I won't say first time around as mayor, but she was mayor pro tem.
Yes.
Tom Adams sort of tried to prep them and get them all ready for if you take on this task. So now we'll see what happens, but it's always a little different when you're a city council person versus when you're the mayor.
Yeah.
It's always, you might have one vote, but you're that.
That's what so with that, that's the one thing I learned through this process as well as we talked to them. It's one vote, the
Yes.
same, but it's the mayor hat.
Yes. Mayor
How is
has
that?
one vote, that's all he has.
Got it.
He is the public relations person for the city of Monrovia.
Got it. Appointed
He
as
dictates
that.
and orchestrates. This is what we should be doing, provided with the support of the council.
Correct.
And if you don't have the support of the council, he don't have those votes, he not gonna get nothing passed just because he say he's the mayor.
Okay.
And that's what some people don't know. But in the same breath, we could talk about how they decided to do what?
Oh, the no on rotating mayor.
Yeah.
That was resounding. 76%.
Yeah, that was like, don't even bring it up again.
Mm-hmm.
Don't waste the time, don't put it on there.
Yeah.
So how does that impact the safe seat?
Yes. Yeah, what does that mean for the safe seat? Nobody wants a rotating anything.
Right.
They want to vote. That's clear.
Yes. So it keeps it safe.
Correct. So is this the moment now where city council gets to show, hey, we hear you. This is who you've got at the number 3 spot.
Okay.
This is who you want. This is who you voted for. We're going to bring them. Or do they scratch it and bring in?
Well, I think the rationale behind it is that you bring in the most compatible person to work with the city council and represent the community. Now, how you do that with someone that has no prior experience? In the case of Kirby, no one knew him from Adam.
So, how was his performance, would you say, or do you know, once he was in that seat?
Average.
Okay.
He didn't do anything. He went with the majority. That's why they picked him. And then he quietly left.
So that was interesting too. That was one thing that Stephen Grolnick was very vocal about in the teams over here and the good old boys society of how things get moved and whatnot. As wild as he is there then truth to it if things like that happen?
Well, Steve Grolnick tells you the lie and tells you the truth. It's up for you to find out which one is which.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Because all politicians have a way of sort of, you see an apple, but sometimes they want to act like you don't really see that apple.
Perfectly said. And the one that I saw that in these conversations was, as we talked about districting
Yes.
in Monrovia, right? The answer that was given by a couple of the candidates who have been on our council was, well, I feel like, we're small enough of a town, we can take care of everybody.
Yes.
I would hate for somebody to come to me and say, oh, well, I'm sorry, I can't help you. That's so-and-so's district. Nothing I can do for you. And it was kind of, that was what was thrown, and I was like, well, we're better than that, we can do it. And I was like, as I'm sitting listening to that, that kind of didn't make any sense to me.
Right.
Because if you think that's okay to say to anybody and be able to not help somebody, I don't know if you should be in that seat. If you're there appointed by people
Yes.
to serve. And that sat with me odd, and it was said again by another candidate running in the council space of, well, I would hate to turn anybody away. My brain instantly went to, well, Mr. Walker, if you're running District 2, I'm running District 1. And I've got Dave that comes to me and says, hey, Chris, I need your help. We've got this issue going on with the streets or whatnot here in my area. Cool, Dave, what district are you? Oh, I don't handle that district, but
Yeah.
what's your email? What's your phone number?
Right.
Let me take care of this for you. I'm gonna get you on an email with Mr. Walker, who handles that district. We'll get you squared away.
Right.
How does that not, still a very personal, I'm playing now well with my teammate, right? As we're in this sandbox together serving our community. I've done good by
Right.
the citizen,
Public
right?
servant. You are a public servant.
And we work
You're
collectively
elected.
together.
Right. For the good of the whole community.
Correct.
But sometimes in time, they get lost with it. They get lost with power.
Yeah,
But we all know power corrupts.
yeah.
Let's talk about Gina Mills and Edward Belden. Didn't make it as high as what I thought that they would. Somewhat surprised in both instances in a way. Belden was reluctant to tell me who his supporter was, which I thought was crazy. I think when we were when I was interviewing him. And then Gina Mills was endorsed by former council person Blackburn. That doesn't bode too well in the future if she decides to run again. But much respect to her for making an effort and saying, okay, I'm going to put my voice out there and let the voters decide.
With Edward Belden, one of the things though, I remember that, but I also didn't feel any type of I'm trying to hide who is backing me. he just had more of a community backing.
Yeah.
Without it necessarily being
One
like, I've got
person.
this council person
Yes.
and that former mayor and, you know what I mean, the big name drops maybe
yes.
backing him. But I really,
When Sergio had,
correct.
but he ended up coming in fourth.
And with Gina Mills having Alex Blackburn
Yes.
as her, stamp.
So sometimes it's good and sometimes it's not
Is
so good.
Is the vote that way though, to where it could be, well, I don't like him, therefore he has stamped her, therefore.
Yes, because let's think about the influence. You run for city council. You want to be endorsed by X amount of people. They endorse you. You win. You owe them something. You got a political debt to pay. Okay. So those names that you were shouting out were the same names that you owe something to. I mean, Dr. Kelly and former Mayor Marianne Lutz. Marianne Lutz made a great political move and statement by endorsing Dr. Kelly. And Dr. Kelly winning. That became the cherry on top of Marianne Lutz's political comeback. All right, Marianne, I know you probably say comeback, I never left. But for a moment, you were quite quiet.
That's interesting to me, how I kind of like that, where you've got mentorship from somebody who sat in the seat as you run.
Yes.
However, I understand like the affiliation and who, you know what I mean, who you're connected to and how that could look. But I think there could be wisdom, right, that's handed down to the next candidate in those cases. But is this person running going to be who they are?
Yes. Can they be themselves, go against the grain,
If needed.
if needed,
Yeah.
but still maintain that support, or it can get ugly where they just say, you know what?
Yeah.
I'm not with you anymore. Which is crazy politics. But that's the
Yeah.
nature of the game,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah, because I look at even in the mayoral race with Stephen Grolnick getting 1,026 votes currently to Becky Shevlin's 6,399 votes. And I go, well, is that all Stephen Grolnick, or is that some that would just have something different
I
than what they've
just
had?
want something different. Yes, because a lot of political votes come down to I like you, I don't like you. They don't care where you stand on anything. Oh, I don't like how that person dressed. I don't like how their voice sounds.
Which is why I also now feel very thankful that we were able to do those conversations.
Yes, to share them with the voters.
Yeah. Yeah. And
What is this person like when he has unscripted answers? Okay.
yeah.
So we both did a unique thing of service to the community to clear up some people's, I don't know who to vote for, because they got to see it more than once.
Yeah, they got to watch it a few times.
Right.
And thank you to Mr. Spicer, Dr. Kelly, Sasha, Sergio, Edward, Gina. Thank you all for coming in to
Yeah.
share what you feel with the
But now
community.
on that note, just think, Sasha initially didn't want his show to play out.
Yeah,
So we know it had an impact on the election, left or right.
right.
So if it hadn't played, he might not even be the number 3 man.
I'll say this, so I know that you don't have your Facebook and your Instagram or TikTok.
Yes.
Even though I think you'd be amazing on TikTok, Mr. Walker. There, but that's another episode for another time. I really saw like digitally, Sasha and Dr. Kelly were the two I saw prominently
Oh, yes.
online, and
Technology-wise,
I thought they did a
giant
great job.
steps.
Yeah, because that's a lot of young vote.
yes.
You know, like a lot of folks don't know what's really going on. I was reaching out to friends of mine, you know, now that I'm over here, I've somehow started enjoying this space, like where politics was the one thing I ran from
Yes.
as a young person growing up, talking to my friends. They're just not all the way aware. They're
Right.
online, but they don't really hear about it. They don't really find out about too much.
There's a beauty in the political process. When it's functioning and working well, it's a beautiful process. When everybody's involved for the good of the bigger cause,
Yeah.
because you get so many different views, pros, cons, up, down, left, right. You get all that. It's only when someone throws a glitch in the system that files it up with color or numbers or money, then it becomes ugly and becomes very poisonous.
Yeah.
I'll put it like that.
Yeah, I think there's, you know, the sport of politics is interesting to me as
Oh, yes.
as it said, you know, right before us. There's the left, there's the right, there's the red team, there's the blue team, there's the donkey
Oh,
team, there's the
yes,
elephant team,
yeah.
you know, and then I feel like we the people is right here in this middle space, but it's the side or this side, and I'd really like to see leadership find this space right here.
Which is greatly missing in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
Leadership is. America's in dire need of real leaders.
Yes.
All right, let's talk about who do you think the council are going to pick
Who do I
from
think?
that safe seat?
I think the move that should happen is if it's Sasha that ends up on July 1st having the third most votes, I think it'd be amazing if council was like, look, Monrovia, this was your third choice, right? This was who got the third most votes. They get the seat. We hear you, right? We hear you, the people, and now we're gonna take your 1, 2, and 3, and here we go.
Or do you think they need to do something bolder? Do they need to come up with something legally that dictates what happens? How is that third person elected? How is this seat really filled? When we know that those on the same team on the city council, they're going to pick who's going to with them. Was a lesson learned from Pam Fitzpatrick that came in third but was denied the seat? And Marianne Lutz was part of it. Rob Hammond was part of it. Tom Adams was part of it. All these are people that were mayor and on the city council. They said, no, we don't want her because she's too disruptive. She won't work with the council. And you know, we're going through rough times as it is with personalities and different things. And so, no, we'll go with Kirby. So if you just tune in and you're wondering what's taking place, we're doing a recap on Monrovia's election. Who won? Who lost? Who's your mayor? Who's your new city council people? And then the safe seat. Do you know what that's all about?
I hope people will run this episode back and dig into a few of those right there.
And those that didn't vote complain and say they used those things. Oh, nothing gonna change. Well, you didn't vote. How could you help make the change if you weren't?
Yeah.
If you didn't help turn that wheel, you gotta help turn the wheel. So, different influence, touch and go handle. Oh, touch and go is Larry Spicer. Will he be more assertive? You think you'll hear his voice as incumbent as, hey, you know, I got quite a few votes. People want to hear my voice.
I hope so, and I think that changes. You know, I look at now the makeup of the council will be different. So I believe that, you know, in that turn and with his experience and time in, I'd like to see that. I hope that's what could happen.
Yes, yes, yes. And then Dr. Kelly, we tried to touch on her as what influence will former Mayor Marianne Lutz have on her? Well, we know it's going to be, some will be good and then some might be debatable.
Right.
But it's going to be some influence. Guaranteed. Trust me. Trust me. In this town. Talk about Measure K. Where are we at with that?
Measure K, I'd love to know now what is going to happen with those funds. I know as we talked to them, they said it was still too early to know. I'm assuming at this point the new council will sit collectively. I know that Dr. Kelly was very adamant and very in the streets, you know, getting people's to care,
Yes.
finding out what people care about and what they'd like to see more of and how they'd like to see that money spent. So I like what she did as far as taking it to the people and asking.
Yeah.
I hope it was a great amount of response, you know what I mean, and not just a slight skew,
Yeah.
because then that only serves that slight skew of folks. But I do love that she went to the parks
Hey.
and she asked people.
She took them. She brought them to the polls.
Yes, she took the polls and got the answers to them. So I hope that they'll look at that or take that into consideration.
All right. All right. Gloria, we didn't bring her name up. Currently on the city council. Didn't have to run.
Right.
I know she was glad. It'll be interesting to see how the energy works out with the three women.
Right.
That's a different number. You know, they huddle up and girls got power, women got power. Okay.
Which is cool to see.
Yes.
Which is
Yes.
cool to see. And that was for me, it was really nice to see the diversity in our council candidates
Yes.
this year.
Without a district, which is pretty amazing. Because I think the political powers that be, outside, state related, they want districts. And that might eliminate one racial group as far as having a representative. You never know with the dynamics, the way things are changing as far as population and who can buy a house, who can move. Not like the children get the house.
Yep.
It's just passed on. Usually the kids get the house and they say, I can get this much for this house. Sell it.
Yeah.
And then it changes.
Yep.
And then the community changes. So it's going to be interesting in 2022 because of the dynamics on the city council. What direction is it really going to go?
Yeah. We're going to find out July 1st. We'll know.
We'll start off with everything there. Now, I'm wondering, is that a warning shot? They telling me that we exceeded time?
Yeah,
How
I think
we
that's
gonna
the
tell-
warning shot right there.
All right, to all those candidates that ran for office, win, lose, or waiting on that safe seat answer, I give much respect to you for throwing your hat out there in the ring.
Yes.
And if you think it's feasible, you're welcome to come back and try it again. And to my Juneteenth person, Opal Lee, Piet Opal Lee, take the time to look her up. Amazing woman. 'Cause I can't seem to find Opal Lee.
There she is.
in history. In history, because what she do, she said, recognize Juneteenth. X amount of years before black folks found out they were free. Now, some of you white folks out there, you got to learn how to celebrate with black folks and people of color, because it is a great American holiday now. All right, you want to wrap it up, close it out?
Yeah, we could do it. Thanks so much for joining us. We're going to find out July 5th. July 1st, we'll know the number. July 5th, we will get to see City Council appoint the next few seats. So who is that third seat going to go to? We will know then. Mr. Walker, I appreciate you having me here for this talk.
All's well and good, and to the future, and to the folks out there, safe seat. Maybe we need to fix it in Monrovia. It still could be a safe seat, but maybe with a better understanding of who gets it, win, lose, or draw.
Yeah.
Because basically, they're losers, but nobody want to be called a loser. Came in third, hell.
I got the people's votes, man. Give me the spot.
All right, tell them about it.
All right, there it is. We will catch you. Thank you so much for checking out this election 2022 recap here on KJM.
All right, Juneteenth. I'm riding off into the sunset. It's been a pleasure, Monrovia, on this sweltering hot day. Now, when this show airs, it might be 55 degrees and I got a sweater on.
I hope.
But right now, I'm telling you, it's